Hello everyone. I just wanted to do a quick trade recap over a dollar yen trade I took. This is only the second trade that I took this week. Um, the difference is this was a losing trade, but I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about it. And I see a lot of strugglers in this market. A lot of people who hold on to losers. And a lot of these people are even led by, professionals, um, which, to me, that's just the worst way to try and teach somebody how to trade in this market. You have to pick your spot, So when you do any kind of trade analysis, you should be before you enter, you should know three things minimum. Why are you entering that trade? What's the reason behind it? There should be a reason, a valid reason, not some, just, well, I think it's going to go this way. I think it's going to do this. You should have a valid reason based off of some analysis, whether that be technical, fundamental, whatever. There should be a reason why you're entering that trade. Number two, there should be a place where you should be getting out of that trade because the reason why you're entering the trade is no longer valid. And I'm going to go into that today on this video and explain where that point was for me and why. And then you should also have, number three, you should also have a point where, hey, it's time for me to take some cheese, the market's gone in my favor enough. I should be taking a little bit of profit. There's different ways to take profit. Personally, I kind of take partial profits. I started trading as a day trader, so I'm used to, 20, 30, 50 pips. Over the past year and a half, I've just kind of slowly traded the pound yen, slowly become accustomed with its movements. So, an average trade for me on the pound yen, maybe 100 pips. So, those are the three things that you need to know before you enter a trade. So let's get into this trade analysis here right now on the dollar yen. So I have had this level marked here, and the market had came back up, and once it was broken, it was rejected from its kind of zone several times, and you can even kind of mark this off as like a demand zone, right? It still may be valid, but the reason why I entered this trade yesterday was, for a particular, like a head and shoulders pattern, and that was invalidated today. But this zone may still hold. Looks like there's some buying interest or selling interest coming out of it. But if we drop down to the 4-hour chart, you can kind of see it a little bit better. This was the potential head and shoulders pattern that I was looking at. Let me just delete that zone. Something like this. So based off these patterns, if you're not familiar with head and shoulders patterns, you have a shoulder, market comes down, you have a head, market comes down, kind of starts creating a neckline. However you want to draw that neckline, if you want to, just be sloppy with it, cut through a bunch of wicks. And then you have another shoulder, and what's supposed to happen is the market is supposed to, push down from this, this second formation of the shoulder, break this neckline, and then typically it's some type of measured move. Most people just measure, from the head to the neckline and then kind of duplicate it. But I kind of go off of structure, and I don't wait for any kind of confirmation. If this was going to be a head and shoulders pattern, this area here was going to hold, and my head, the top of my head would not be violated, right? If this is a head and shoulders pattern, you have your shoulder, you have your head, you have your second shoulder, the market should go down. Whether that's in lower highs as it goes down before it breaks or whatever, the head, the peak, the top should not be violated. That was violated today. So this head and shoulders pattern is no longer valid. Whether the market, that's a pretty bearish rejection candle right there coming off the top of that, these other levels up here, that's a very bearish candle. This thing may tank from here on out, but I'm out of this trade for right now. I have some other levels actually higher up that I'm interested in selling now, because yeah. So I just wanted to make this video. Let me show you where I actually entered at. So once we kind of form this shoulder, head, and then potentially we're forming this other shoulder, I fibbed just this high to low point, and I was looking at actually entering right around where the market currently is where I actually entered. So we had the high of this left shoulder there in between, and that was sitting right in between the 78.6, and if we take that low to high point right there on that level was a nice little profit target. And in addition to that, you could draw some kind of little channel topper thing right there like that. It looks better on the 1 hour chart, but this was my entry right here. Where was my stop? That was where I wanted to enter the market. That's where I entered. The market immediately triggered me in. It was manual entry is when that was, because it wasn't too late. It was a manual entry. Immediately went in my favor. I think I was up 50 pips, not 50, like 20 pips at one time. But the market just slowly kind of came back to my entry, trickled around it, and then had a pretty strong push up. And I exited this trade at just essentially as the price was spiking above the top here, because that's my exit point. That's why I should be getting out of that trade, because this head and shoulders pattern isn't valid any longer. It's not a head and shoulders pattern anymore. Because what I thought was the head is just been violated by this wick. I mean, it's a large bearish candle now, but at the time, it could have been a breakout and just ran 1,000 pips. Who knows? And if you're just going to sit in a trade and hope that the market's going to come back in your favor, that's not a good strategy. There's two types of people in this market. There's those who are humble, and there's those who are going to be humbled. And I was, humbled my fair share early on. It's exhausting to always, hold on to losers and hope that, the market's going to come back in your favor. It's super stressful. I follow a guy on Instagram. He puts up a lot of cool, like, trading quotes. Steve Burns, he's a trader, but He said, "My biggest mistakes in trading have occurred when I abandoned logic, reason, and math in favor of hope. Hope is a great emotion, but a terrible trading tool." And I cannot agree with him more. Um, so I just wanted to put this out as kind of an educational post, and on, losing. I lose, you know. I win, but I also lose, and it's in those losses that I choose to. So, I'm kind of spiritual. I like to, start my day with some kind of, Bible devotional. So I like to, thank my God for the wins, and I also like to thank my God for the losses, because it's in those losses that I remain humble. And, I'm still learning that to this day. I don't like to lose. If I knew that I was going to get stopped out on this trade, I wouldn't have exited, or I wouldn't have entered, but we don't know. It's all a game of probabilities. So that's kind of my, I don't know, mushy talk for the day. So if you enjoyed this, like and share. If you want more losing trade analysis, let me know. I don't do too many of them, because it's obvious why I lost. I'm at that point where it's essentially, my levels didn't hold. So the market's doing something that I didn't expect it to do, so I need to get out. So I don't do too many of them, but I wanted to do this because I've had a couple of messages from people who are in groups here and there, and the people who are leading them, don't use stop losses or don't honor stop losses when they're hit. And it's just kind of ruining people's accounts to a certain extent. So yeah, I don't know. It's all a personal. I mean, I know people who are successful and don't use stop losses. But those people are also, the types of people who kind of know that, I mean, they're humble. They're not on an ego trip. They don't hold on to stuff just in hopes of being right or not wanting to be wrong. You can't be like that in this market. It'll chew you up and just spit you out within, with a zero balance account. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna fly. You have to be wrong sometime. You will be wrong sometime. And you need to just swallow your pride, swallow your ego. There's no room for that in this market. You have to be just a participant, and you have to just pick your spots, pick your entries, pick your exits, and honor those. So this has kind of gone long enough. Like, share, comment, whatever, and have a great, wonderful weekend.